My wood.
So they all put tar paper up there.
There we go.
Tar paper's all they have.
They didn't put no.
No,
It's not in here. You said you had one.
if I'd been there, we would have done it differently. I
Yeah, you
wasn't there the day
could have had to
we
put chipboard up there on top of that other
did.
board.
Yeah, chipboard.
What should have been put up there. And they could have glued that with F-26.
It's in here.
I'm not happy.
You know how people like
But it looks good.
F-26 to hold that down.
Most of the time,
I mean, I treat everybody. I grew the eagle down to it.
that's exactly right. That's right.
It don't.
I love the chocolate here.
help me with these public hearings and all of this
Go
stuff.
through it. You had to use short nails. But all you had to do is just put your short tack on the hole. So that glue set up and it ain't gonna go nowhere.
We have been so busy. It's a busy inspection.
Get it out of
Is that all?
my copy.
Nobody wanted the mistake back. And then
Up there telling me, giving me the finger, saying it's time to go.
the tally sheet, we have to sit there, somebody does, right there. Every name that comes through those little white sheets on a piece of paper. I don't know
Jerry.
why it's done that way. That's the way it's done on election day. It's not done, it isn't done that way here.
I think I can do it.
Well, they double registered some people, and we were like 67 votes. I mean, the sheet numbers different. We had more people voting than the machine said. So today, I came to the Lions meeting 7:30. They talked to two fourth grade classes on city government. But back then, Mr. Marshal went out there between the three ladies. We rewrote all those 1,230 sheets, names there. And we balanced those sheets. We all got to the warm fire, and we were smiling. Now we're ready to serve. Those little women, I got, you know, they take a break.
Jerry, you want to do your report first?
Yeah.
Kind of a.
Okay.
We're persistent.
Thank you for your attention. Welcome to the March City Council meeting for the city of Russellville. If you would, we'll be led in our invocation by Chaplain Harry Comprud, so please rise. We'll follow that with a pledge to our flag.
Let us pray. Father, we give thanks and praise today, Lord. We thank you, Father, that we live in a city that we can still do this and have prayer before a meeting, and we can always honor your name, and we give you thanks for that. And Lord, we pray for our leaders of this city that they come together to discuss this business at hand. I ask for your guidance and direction in their discussions, and I pray that the decisions made here tonight are done in the best interest of the community. Let an attitude of servanthood, unity, and respect for one another be the forefront of their discussions. And I pray for our leaders, our community, and their families to keep them safe and protected. And we pray and we ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Be seated. Ms. Taylor, city clerk, is in Little Rock getting clerk training. So Ms. Palladino is going to fill in tonight. Would you call the roll for us?
Yes. Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Mr. Straight?
Here.
Mr. Sims?
Here.
Ms. Harris?
Yeah, present.
Mr. Wiley?
Here.
Mr. Tritt?
Here.
Mr. Brown?
Here.
And Mr. Westcott?
Here.
Thank you.
Everybody present and accounted for, so we do have a quorum. Council, in your package, you got the minutes from our meetings in February. If there's no corrections or questions, I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion.
Second. I believe, I believe Mr. Westcott came in under the wire, and we're going to give credit to the second to our new guy down there on the end. All right, all in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Mr. McCoy, do you have a finance report for, oh yeah, you got some good news, maybe.
You better, the county did.
Entertain us.
Entertainment. We'll start off right here. General fund revenues, $1,469,733 for February, 21.48% above our projections. Total tax receipts, $1,005,203. I'm not sure what happened in December, but we were the blessing of it because we ended up with $187,000 more than we have ever received in tax revenue.
Can I insert something from the Alliance meeting this morning? The same was true with the county, and Judge Gibson said he had verified with the state that the numbers were correct. Is that not right, Mayor?
He did, and Jerry's got pretty much the same answer, that there wasn't a mistake made, but it's an abnormality, so Jerry's got a recommendation for how we handle having too much money, because I know it's a situation we're not used to dealing with.
My recommendation is that let's sit on it a couple of months and see if maybe there's something been purchased out there that they're going to ask for a tax refund on, because that could happen. But anyway.
Now, Jerry.
We got money to get along on, but
So,
there's about 3 different explanations this could be. A couple of them could be good news, a couple of them could be questionable news.
So how much up are we for this number? How much are you saying?
we're up $188,000.
188,000. Thank you.
Franchise fees and permits were $364,448. Expenditures were $951,976 for February. That's 10% above our year-to-date projection. We receipted $236,001 more receipted than expended. If you remember last month, I was $200,000 less, so we've doubled it. Street fund operations was $123,791, 9.7% above projections. Sales tax receipts was $643,093. Half-cent road tax, $52,691. Street fund expenditures were $149,029, 1.84 above projections. Sales tax improvements were $20,717 on sidewalks, some drainage, and Glenwood. We had no capital expenditures in the street department. Economic development, $52,977, $50,660 for sales tax, $2,317 in interest. Expenditures were $5,225 for the Valley Alliance. Capital revenues are $117,425, $116,807 was sales tax, $618 in interest. Expenditures were $124,432 for the City Corp and Fire Station. That's the end of the report. Is there any questions?
All right,
Thank
no
you.
questions? Thank you, Mr. McCoy. All right, for the mayor's report, we're going to have several little pieces today. First off, I'd like to get Miss Stephanie Bierman from the Russellville Chamber of Commerce to come up. Where are you at? Step to one of the microphones and tell us who you are and what you've got to tell us about.
This is a first for me. I've never stood at the podium. My name is Stephanie Nichols. I'm with the Russellville Chamber of Commerce. I have the pleasure every year of presenting you with your Leadership Russellville class. Today we embarked on our Regional and City Government Day, and I want to thank the mayor and the city department heads that met with us today, gave us a tour of the facility, entertained us in our questions, to give our leadership group a better understanding of how our city works together, but not just our city, but the region. We also had the opportunity to meet with 3 additional mayors from some of our surrounding communities to talk to us about their areas, their strengths, their weaknesses, how they're structured, and just to give us an overall idea of how our community, the River Valley, can come together and work together and progress together. So before I sit down, I have some of our leadership group with us here today, some for the first time at a city council meeting, some for the first time in City Hall at all. So I'd like to ask them just to stand up for a moment. Some of them, they're kind of around. There they are. So it's a wonderful group of professionals and leaders in our community. And I would like to just say real quick, we have 30 delegates in our Leadership Russellville Class 32 this year, which is the highest number of leadership delegates that we've ever had in the 32 years we've been doing the program. It's a wonderful program. It is facilitated through your Russellville Chamber of Commerce. We are currently accepting applications for the 2018-2019 year. So if it's something that you're interested in, from our current leadership, from our city leadership, we would encourage you to let us know if you can think of anybody that you would feel should serve on as our future delegate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And I was a couple of months past due there. Ms. Nichols, thank you. Next up, I'd like to get Chief Sloan and Battalion Chief Vic to come up, and they've got a little presentation for you guys I think that you'll enjoy, and our worldwide audience will get a kick out of seeing what they have to talk about.
We appreciate y'all having us up here today for just a little while. We won't, be longer than an hour or so, but no, really, this is a topic that you've heard a lot about lately. Mr. Ingram did a great job on an article the other day in the paper. We just wanted to, since January, we've been trying to get in a little talk on the ISO, allow you to ask any questions that you want to ask. As of January 1st, we went to a Class 2. So we're going to run through a little PowerPoint that has a little bit of information. If you have any questions, just speak up and we'll try to do the best we can. We're going to kind of tag team this. He talks a lot faster than I am. If I was to do all of it, it would last too long. So go ahead. What is ISO? Insurance Services Office. It's a third-party rating system. And what they do is they basically, in layman's terms, they rate the efficiency or the ability of fire departments to manage risk in that area. And if they do a really good job, they lower rates. They give you a lower classification and they lower rates. So what they do is evaluate efficiency. It's broken into 10% is dispatch, 911, 40% is water supply, and 50% is fire department. In 2004, we were evaluated. We attained an ISO class of 3. In 2012, we were evaluated. We maintained a 3. We had a rating of 73. And class 3 is 70 to 79.99. Now, as y'all know, towards the end of 2016, we had some changes. We sat down and we really put our heads together to talk about efficiency. At that time, we weren't really talking about ISO, but we wanted to figure out how we could increase our efficiency. We could provide more to the citizens, do more with the resources that you put at our disposal. And so we kind of started formulating a plan. One of them was the apparatus replacement plan, which we presented to you. Let me go into this now. Well, actually, we're going to talk more about this. I'm going to let him go. I'm trying to take his time, so go ahead.
Sorry, y'all know I talk fast, but I only have 8 slides instead of 40 like last time. So we wanted to talk about a few of the different techniques it really took to get down here. And it wasn't just a flip of a switch. It took a lot of hard work. And like I said, the people were the best as far as helping the water department, dispatch. Everybody has probably got the best relationship they've had ever, I would think. But some of the new things that we were challenged, they changed the way they grade the schedules. And so now any area outside of 1,000 foot of a hydrant for a home, they could offer you a split rating. So you could be a class 2 here, but if you were less urbanized in Russellville, you could be a class 5 or 6, which would dramatically change your ratings. And we were able to avoid areas like that by using neighboring departments that have water tankers to show up automatically. So whenever that's in that area, if we work with dispatch and the city court to boost pressures in that area, but also to find other departments that have that water capability to come to us automatically. And so that really kept us from the split rating. So we were able to keep a class 2 all the way across the board, which is a lot of other cities do not have that advantage. We also maintained a backup radio system, which doesn't sound like a lot, but when the main towers go down, we had no other way of communicating. We were able to maintain an older system for a backup that we have at any time, which is also major points. And then last year, because of you guys approving for the new ladder truck, greatly influenced our classification rating. We were able to have a ladder truck that actually reached all the buildings in town now, and it also gave us credit for a reserve with the existing one that we haven't had since 2006. So we went over 11 years without a reserve aerial. So And you saw the element reserve ladder truck whenever we had the squad and the ladder trailer. So other big things, training agreements with Pottsville. They had a burn facility set up. We were able to sign an agreement to use that facility to train. We're in the works with Mr. Frazier over there to try to develop one here in the city limits. And then another big thing they've changed is based on our current station locations, they've graded on, how far an engine is, a 1.5 mile response and a 2.5 for a ladder truck. Well, we only cover the city with 60% of our apparatus because we're just so spread out. Well, now they account for actual run time. So they look at your actual data for where you've had fires, and our average response time was 4 minutes anywhere in the city. So instead of 60% credit, we received 97% coverage. So that means 90th% of the time we were within your neighborhood in 4 minutes, which is huge. I want him to kind of expand on just the other major changes with fire prevention. So.
Well, this is what I was starting to get into a while ago. Another thing that we did is we looked at our manning. We had somebody assigned to operations support. We talked about where we could get the most bang for our buck with that personnel. We moved him over into fire prevention and public education because really, when you look at our entire budget and you look at proactive versus reactive, very small percentage is spent on proactive. Well, we started looking at that and decided that we really needed to address that, and if we were going to make a change, that's the area that we needed to be, because how better to accomplish our mission as a fire department in managing risk, but to eliminate that risk from the very beginning, keep it from happening. So we moved somebody over to Richard's office, to Fire Marshal's office, and we expanded our fire protection and public education into a couple of areas. One of them is the company inspection program. That is, our engine companies go in every occupancy that has a business permit in the city, and they will do a free inspection, which is a safety inspection. It's for the benefit of the business owner. It's also for the benefit of the citizen that's in there working or shopping. So last year we were able to accomplish about 40% of the occupancies in the city. This year we're going to finish the remaining 60%. As we're doing that, we're getting better at it. We're getting more efficient. The personnel are learning what to look for. They're learning how to record it. Next year, our goal is we're going to do 100% each year. That's a major improvement over what we've done in the past. It's also an ISO requirement. And it's also getting our engine companies out there in the public. They're getting to know their FMAs better, the occupancies that are in their FMA, their fire management area, and they're able to have that connection with the community. So when they came and we found out that ISO was coming, then we really started looking at some of these details that Chris and I have been talking about and found out that we had really benefited by some of the decisions that we made. They came back last year. We were evaluated and we scored an 82. We went from 73 to an 82, which is class 2, which puts your fire department in the top 3% of fire departments nationwide. And as you know, of course I'm biased, but the greatest asset that we have in our fire departments, that's our guys, that's our firefighters. And they do everything they possibly can with the resources that you give them. And I'm speaking for them when I say that we appreciate everything that you do and your support. We are going to continue to move forward. We're going to continue to try to figure out how to be more efficient. Like you said, we're working with Keith Frazier at the airport, trying to develop a training facility that's inside the city. Another thing, we have that 4-story training tower that the citizens of Russellville have built us. That's going to help immensely. It's going to allow us to train in ways that I've been in the department almost 26 years and we haven't had anywhere to train like that. So we're going to continue and expand our company inspection program, and we're going to continue the focus on fire prevention and public education and mitigating risks to the point that hopefully we can eliminate them as much as possible. That's all I have. Do y'all have any questions? Was that fast enough or too fast?
Very good, Chief.
Good.
Thank you, Chief.
Good. Y'all have any questions? All right, I'll let you get on. Thank you very much, and thank you again for everything and your support.
Thank you, Chief. All right, council, hopefully by now you received at your home address the legislative audit for 2016. If there's no questions or concerns about it, we need to formally approve that.
Motion.
We got a motion for approval from Mr. Westcott.
Second.
See, I heard it on one end and saw Mr. Sims' mouth move at the same time, so second by Mr. Brown and Mr. Sims. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, that's approved. Next up, Ms. Betsy McGuire. She'd like to give us a little going away present, I guess.
Well, unlike Stephanie, this isn't my first time, but this is going to be my last time that I will be making a presentation to this body in my role as Executive Director of Main Street Russellville. So last year, the organization celebrated its 25th anniversary. I'm going to do a little recap so that you guys know what we have accomplished in the last 25 years. So give me a minute, because I am technology challenged
We've
at
been there
times.
with you, Betsy, we know.
Uh-oh, Jerry, Lynn, get me out of this. No, it's just flipping. What? Huh? Da 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 da. There we are. Cha-ching. Get those out of there for me if you would. There you go. Cool. Up and down. Cool. So the Main Street program started in 1992. I was not the first director at that time, but fortunately, there were a group of folks throughout the community that had the vision that downtown could be much better than it was. And downtown revitalization was not the trendy thing that it is now. When we were talking about redeveloping our downtown at that time, it was happening on the East Coast, happening on the West Coast. So I had a little bit of a challenge in talking with your predecessors on the value of downtown and what we needed to do to make our downtown better and its role in the community. So since 1992, Main Street Russellville has been leading that effort to restore, renew, and revitalize our downtown district. We are fortunate that downtown remains the seat of our city and county government. For those of you that aren't aware that we had a courthouse prior to the current one, this is what our first courthouse looked like. It pretty much sat in the same vicinity as the one that we have now. And of course, this is a more current version when it was first built in the 30s. And of course, this is what it looks like today. And fortunately, the citizens voted before I ever came on board with Main Street to keep our county government downtown. Had they relocated at that time, we would have had a huge battle that we have not had to make in the last 25 years. You all recognize this building, the Masonic Temple, built in 1930. For years, it had been the seat of city government. This is what it looked like before this body took on the task of rehabilitating the entire building into what we are able to enjoy today. And I want to remind you that Main Street Russellville provided $80,000 in grants to put the reproduction windows back in the building. You guys remember this building? When I came on board with Main Street, all I heard was that this building was ready for the wrecking ball. This is the oldest building in our downtown district, the J.L. Shin building. And fortunately, Mike and Joy Miller took on a big rehab project back in 1996, continued to do, Luke Duffield has continued to do great improvements into that building. And of course, if you dine at Pasta Grill, you enjoy the benefits of that work on that wonderful building downtown. Vacant lot on the corner of Arkansas and Main Street prior to the development of Burris Memorial Plaza. Obviously, we had considered doing some sort of gateway treatment into our downtown district at the time. And of course, when the airline accident took place in Little Rock, it took on a little bit different flavor. And of course, Burris Memorial Plaza helps us memorialize those members of our community that we lost at that time. Still a wonderful gateway into our downtown. Another one of our downtown buildings located directly across from the depot has had several rehabs. This is what it looks like today. And the new garage arcade, thanks to Miss Emily Young, has opened up under the blue awning there on the left, and Gallery 307 is on the second floor of that building and just does a great job of enlivening our downtown district. This is the Fat Daddy's building before it became Fat Daddy's. This is what it looks like today. Major redevelopment in our downtown district. Did you guys know when my family moved here in 1988, there were 2 places to eat downtown, Stobie's Restaurant and C&D Drugstore Snack Shop. Now there are 6 places to eat in downtown. That's a major change in our downtown district. Do you all know that Polk County Courthouse business took place in the second floor of this building before the first county courthouse was built? This is the old Electric Moo. The historic R.J. Wilson building has had several rehabilitations thanks to its owner, Pam and Van Christensen. And of course, this is what it looks like now with dog-ear books. Recent winner of Best New Retail Business, I believe, during the Arkansas Municipal League. And of course, everybody recognizes this, the old Bank of Russellville building, now home to the Old Bank Sports Grill. Major development in our downtown. Surely you all have noticed that you cannot drive down Main Street any night of the week and not see that parking spaces are filled and that people are out on the sidewalks after 5 o'clock. And of course, the Russellville Depot project. And this is a facility that the city of Russellville actually owns. Part of Main Street's contract for services is the day-to-day operation and management of that. Phyllis Caruth had a major role in raising funds for that. Guys, I can't tell you, we've probably got $1 million invested in that building and that entire depot district that stretches from Arkansas to El Paso. With the development of that project, we also provided 53 new marked parking spaces that had not previously been located downtown. And during the 100th birthday celebration last May, Union Pacific Railroad designated us one of only 3 Traintown USA cities in the state of Arkansas. You have to tell your story. It's what makes you unique. Other landmarks in our community are the ghost sign on the J.L. Shin building. Those of you that remember the caboose and going to concerts at Depot Park before we paid off our note on that property that was paid for with 15 years of rummage round the rails, rummage sales, so that you all could turn around and invest economic development dollars into the Depot Park of today. And this is the kind of impact that that park now has on this community. Last year was the first time during my tenure with Main Street that we have lost any buildings downtown. This is the former Funky Junkie building. This is what that space looks like now. With the help of Main Street Arkansas's exterior architectural consultant, Mason Toms, we were able to provide a rendering to show what a proper new building and feel could look like on that piece of property. And of course, this could be done in the interim if we're looking at new parking spaces downtown. The other thing that I want to mention, because I do have the floor, is as we talk about parking, I want you all to really pay attention to the type of parking and what happens in the future as we look at that. Donovan Ripkema is a conservative economist that believes in downtowns, and he talks about why downtowns don't need more parking. And I'd like for you all to really pay attention to that as we move forward. This is a perfect example of the type of design work that we get from the state Main Street program. This is a recent rendering that Mason Toms provided for the property that sits right on the corner of Main and Arkansas. Over the last 25 years, we've had hundreds of these design concepts that have been provided for our downtown property and business owners at no charge to them. And we don't like being known as just an event organization, but events matter, and I'll tell you why they do matter. Do you know this little downtown art walk that we do on once a quarter? Started back in 2005. We had one art-related business located downtown at that time. We have 6 now, 6 that have grown organically, resulting from the downtown art walks. Taste of the Valley, our signature fundraiser, is coming up at the end of April. I have tickets in my purse. They're still just $25 a piece, $30 at the door. I can fix you up and I will bill you if you don't have money with you. Music Downtown at Sundown is in its 3rd year in the new improved Depot Park. This year we're expanding that 3 series of summer concerts to 4, beginning the last Saturday in May. And this is, there again, Music Downtown at Sundown. Downtown Fall Festival last year was the 26th year. It happens on the last Saturday of October every year. And this is what the crowd looked like last year. Merry and Bright Friday Nights was a new event during the holidays, looking at expanding our Winter Wonderland offerings to bring more feet on the sidewalks during the holidays in the effort to make more cash registers ring downtown, bring more people downtown for the tree lighting ceremony and the Christmas parade, and bringing VIPs in like Jingle, the holiday hog from Arkansas Parks and Tourism. And the Polar Express reading that brought in a lot of kids and their parents and grandparents to the depot for visits with Mr. Conductor. So local landmarks, Russellville's sacred places, where they are, what they are. I have to read this quote. The kinds of places people really care about are rarely created from scratch. They evolve, they ripen and mellow. The city of the future isn't waiting to be built. It's already here. It's in the streets and neighborhoods where we live and work. We don't have to devise it. We just have to ensure that it makes the transition from today to tomorrow without losing the ineffable rooted character it has gained over time. Did y'all notice how I had to switch there because I can't read that? Other sacred places, and they aren't just churches, but certainly places like Central Presbyterian Church, First Christian Church over on Boulder Avenue, the 500 building. What could that be in the future of this community? Wouldn't it be great if once again it were a boutique hotel, mixed-use development on the ground floor, maybe some condos on the top floor, and maybe the actual bookend to the El Paso corridor development? What about the federal building? One of the biggest accomplishments we did when the city assumed that from the federal government way back in the early days of our program. The Russellville Public Library, the original library building that sits on the grounds of the library now, and also the Go sign at Italian Gardens. Actually, Pasta Grill, I keep referring to that as Italian Gardens. Gardner Junior High. I wanted to bring this up because I was in Ocean Springs, Mississippi not long ago, and there is a building almost identical to this in downtown Ocean Springs. It is a fabulous cultural center, not a convention center, but something that could accommodate small conferences, training sessions, classrooms provide great breakout space, and they have a wonderful Viking kitchen. Other wonderful landmarks, other sacred places in this community you all will recognize is the Lion House on Main Street, the Wilson House, Todd Sweden's new event center, Belle Helene Bess, I'm sorry. And of course the Latimer Tourist Home, some places that you don't think of that might really have a story to tell in your community. And I want to emphasize to you all because, you know, obviously I didn't start my life as a historian, but I have certainly learned the value of saving our historic places, because when we lose a historic place, we do lose a part of who we are, and they help us tell the story of where we have grown from, and also help us pave the way for our future. The other thing I want to mention to you guys, and I put a copy of our annual report at everybody's place, and there are a couple of things that I'd like to go over before I actually give this up. Last year was our 25th anniversary, So obviously, we celebrated 2017 with a report from that year. We had over $1 million in reinvestment take place in our downtown in 2017. But more importantly, I want to talk to you about what's happened over the last 25 years. Did you know since the Main Street program has sold, we've had properties that have sold at 5 times an increase over the value of what they sold for originally during that 25-year period? Did you know that the city's return on your investment, we've had a contract for services with the city of Russellville, I believe since 1993. You guys have invested about $450,000 in our organization since the program started in '92. Did you know that you've had $25 as your return on your investment for every dollar that you've put into our program? We've had over $11 million in reinvestment downtown since 1992. Did you know there's been 46,793 volunteer hours valued at $919 and some odd dollars since 1992? And let me tell you, Mary Ann Salmon, when she was in the state legislature, she talked about the value of volunteers, that they do in a community. They do the work in a community that city and county government cannot do. So that value is incredibly important. And our relationship with the State Main Street program has given us almost $500,000 in grants that we've been able to turn around and apply to projects or to dole out to property owners and business people so that they could improve their buildings and businesses. And we've had over $1 million in other grants that we've acquired that have benefited this community. Some of those went into the depot project, some have gone into other properties, some actually went into this building. So I hope that you all, when you find yourselves questioning what your value may be in regard to the relationship between Main Street Russellville and the city of Russellville, I hope that you all see what that value has been and will continue to be in the future. I will entertain any questions that you might have.
I would cry.
Oh,
if
surely.
I would cry if I started to ask you any questions. You've been a pleasure. You've been a delight, and I've always enjoyed volunteering with the Main Street group.
Thank you, Freddie. And I'm going to try to talk through my dry mouth because I've certainly got it. But let me tell you guys something. Randy, Mayor Horton, I have to thank you because you have been a pleasure to work with. And those of you sitting at this dais, you all have been a pleasure to work with. There's never been a time that I have not been able to approach one of you, talk about concerns, for, not just for downtown, but downtown's role in this community. And it's not just you guys. Kirk Sloan at the Russellville Fire Department, Jeff Humphreys at RPD. The things that we do throughout the year could not be done without every individual at every level of city government. And I have to thank you all for that. And the relationships that I have developed in my 25 years with Main Street are enduring. And I can't thank you enough for that. Your new director will be coming on board May the 1st, and her name is Jamie Mullen. And you all may know Jamie. Jamie and her husband Jim own Mullen Team Sports. They've been downtown for about 12 years. Jamie was one of 4 finalists, and any of those 4 could have taken over the position that I am vacating. But Jamie was the one that won out the role. And I hope that you all will welcome Jamie warmly and treat her as kindly as you have me, and continue to work with her and do the good work in our downtown. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Betsy. I'm going to deviate off script just a minute here, Chief. If you'll start making your way over. Yeah. Because, you know, as inspiring as that report really was, there's still people that doubt out there in the community why we do some of the things we do and whether it has a value. I met this young man coming up here a couple of years ago. He lived out in California back then. He actually put in an application to be our fire chief, and it was heavily weighed, Chief, I'll tell you that, but I think you know why we did what we did. I'm going to let you introduce yourself. He asked tonight if he could speak to the council and to the public for a minute, and I thought it was worth hearing from him. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thank you. My name is Jason Robitel, and I'm one of Russellville's newest citizens and residents. And what prompted that is that employment opportunity 2 years ago. My wife and 2 young kids. I was a fire chief in California until less than a month ago. We had a physical therapy clinic where my wife, Dr. Leah Robitel, is a therapist there. And we want just a better opportunity for our family, so we started our research, and this opportunity came up. The only flights we could find were first-class flights to Arkansas, so we jumped on a flight and headed out here. Being ingrained in government in that state, I thought I had a certain standard to expect when I relocated. And I just felt prompted and obligated to come here this evening and commend the city of Russellville. And you've exceeded all my expectations. You validated the point that when we quit our way of living and uproot in a community I was in 32 years and said, you know what, I need to start a better life for my family, my 2 young boys. And it was validated when your chaplain opened up with a word of prayer and those values. And that's why we came here. And I'm telling you what, we purchased some land, I purchased a house, and I've hit almost every department. And I've just been blown away because it's the interaction. You know, I know coming from California on the left coast could be somewhat interesting interactions, but I was just blown away again by the professionalism. There's efficiencies in government. I did not know that your fire department just received an ISO rating of Class 2. And someone who's been in those evaluations that have received lower scores, I know the time and commitment that is involved in that. And that value, that return, I don't know if we realize that comes to us as citizens, because when I pay our insurance rates, ISO evaluates basically the horsepower and the equipment we bring to a fire scene. So I hear that they're progressive, their deployment strategies, and they're being proactive. I just wanted to take a minute and just say thank you to the city council. I know in government you guys have differences, you speak your mind, you work through those issues, the mayor and your leadership, and it's a pleasure to be here. I don't want to just be a citizen that receives all these services. I want to be involved in this community and watching Russellville continue to progress and grow in the direction it's about to head. So I just wanted to take a moment. I know it's a busy meeting, but thank you for that time, and hope to have you over soon for some tea or something. So thank you.
Thank you. It's kind of nice when a guy, surely there were other places he could have stopped off on his way from California to Arkansas. And that's an example of what they tell us is the future of the economy, especially with the younger generation. They will pick where they want to live based on the quality of life and their happiness and things like that. And then they'll find a way to support that lifestyle when they get there. And so I guess I'm just wanting to say thanks, council, thanks to Main Street, to leadership, to the groups here and the groups that aren't here tonight. The community as a whole all really does their parts. And sometimes when we're here every day and we know the warts and we know the scars and we know the things that we're still trying to work to improve, we forget to recognize we've got a pretty daggum good place to live here. So thank you, Chief. One last piece of business, council, and then I'll get off of it. Tuesday night we talked about 3 nominees for the Parks and Rec Commission. One of those, it turns out, lives a little too far out of town. You have to live within the city limits. So we're going to change that list to Dallas Clark. He's a young man that works out at Lake Dardanelle State Park, does live here in town. He's got children. He's involved in the parks. And I think he would make, I've actually had that name recommended by more than one person. The same is true for Jamie Ellis of the famous Whataburger Ellis's. You all know him. I don't have to reintroduce him to you. And Johnny Brazil, that owns the climbing wall and also is very active in the bicycling community, which is a huge part of not just in the parks but all around town. So those are going to be the three names that I'm going to place in nomination, and I'll leave it up to the council how you want to deal with it. If you want to wait and consider them for 30 days, that's fine. They all expect it, or if you're familiar enough with them and somebody wants to, it's totally
Mayor.
up to the council.
They don't have no quorum over there now. I feel like we need to go ahead and vote on these tonight.
If y'all are comfortable, is that a motion?
Motion.
I'll second that because you did bring those names up verbally to the,
All of them except Dallas, which was on my list, but I thought Jeremy, we're going to find a place. You all know him. He's got value to us. So we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We'll get with them tomorrow and get the ball rolling. Department report this month is Mike Vernon from the Animal Shelter. Did you bring any of your clients?
No.
Have you ever thought about that?
Well,
Maybe do an adoption?
it gets
again?
pretty wild at these meetings sometimes anyway. I don't think we need
Don't
any
want to
more.
disturb your clients?
Mayor, council, thank you for giving me this opportunity to present my 2017 report. During 2017, the Animal Control Department responded to 1,243 calls. 307 of those calls were after-hours calls. We received 549 dogs and 345 cats, placed 55 dogs and 81 cats into foster care. The euthanasia rate for dogs was 16%, and that's the best we've done since I've been here. Part of that is due to our new quarantine building. We've been able to separate sick animals from our healthy population and treat them over in the quarantine building with antibiotics and just whatever they need. Another part is, we had a really healthy group came in this past year. We had some nice animals, good health, so that cuts down on the euthanasia rate too. We had many off-site adoption events at local businesses. We also had many volunteers and community service workers. We get volunteers almost on a daily basis, and we really appreciate those volunteers. And I would also like to thank all the citizens of Russellville and the businesses who have donated supplies, money, and their time at the shelter. And that concludes my report. Any questions? Thank you.
While you're up there, the yard waste side of it, you got the grinding done, you're back in business?
Grinding's done. It looks odd back there with hardly any debris back there at this time, but we've done some work back there, and it looks good right now.
Good.
Especially with all the rain. We had to get through that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. That'll bring us to the Finance Committee. Chairman Brown, do you have any business for us?
Yes, sir. We have stuff that we went over last week and come in and vote to pass today. First one is appropriation and economic development, and that is down payment for 2 fire trucks. That's $485,365. And I put that as a motion to the council.
Okay, council, that's on tonight's agenda. I think most of you were here. You heard the committee's motion. Is there any discussion?
Mayor, which fund is that coming from?
That is the ED3 Capital Fund.
Number 3. Thank you.
Which I think was how y'all suggested.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's approved, Mr. Chairman.
The second item we have here is the Public Works Department, and they've requested 2 job classification changes, salaries and pension, and FICA for those 2 positions. And that's $4,996.99. Sent that as a motion to the council.
Okay, you want to do the expenses separate, or you want to do it all as one appropriation?
Do it all in one, sir.
All right, so we got $49,96.99 for the salary. That'll bring their pension up to $382,227. and their FICA charge $765.54.
614480.
What is it, Derek?
614480 total.
And that's in a motion from the committee. Any discussion?
Mayor, what positions or classifications are changing?
We're going to move a couple. Junior, you want to tell us, they're moving from, one of them from an operator 3 or a, sling the lingo around for us, Junior.
Yes, both positions are, right now, are operations workers 3, and one is going to be moving from that position to a traffic tech, and then the other one will be moving to a equipment operator 1.
So I was just curious because it wasn't printed anywhere.
Okay.
Yep. So these are not new positions. Well, we're additional, but they're not a new classification. So, any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 is approved, Mr. Chairman.
Third is appropriation, Public Works Department, insurance pass-through, 4811, 46 cents. I send that to the council for in the motion.
All right. Council, you heard the motion. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 3 is approved.
The fourth item is the Public Works Department also, and this has to do with equipment, a vehicle, a truck, and a trailer. The equipment is for cleaning out the drop boxes or the drainage. Okay, and that's $121,500. The vehicle, that's for a new truck. It's a heavy-duty truck.
Yeah, it's new.
That's 40,000. That's there's two vehicles here, a trailer and a truck.
The vehicle and the truck is a dump truck,
Okay,
small dump truck.
okay.
In total, it's $231,500.
Yeah.
Okay, I send that to the council as a motion.
All right. Council, you heard the committee's motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 4 is approved.
Okay, I'd like to put two items together, 5 and 6, and their appropriations. One of them for Inglewood, the other one for Glenwood. And there was changes in the figure on that from 500,000 each to 350.
Down to, they're one down to 150. These are reductions, both of them at 350,000.
Both of them?
350 each.
Yep.
I put that to the council as a motion.
All right.
5 and 6.
Council, you heard the motion on items 5 and 6. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5 and 6 are approved, Chairman.
Appropriations, the fire department. This is a refund on electric bill for $935.81. I put that as a motion for council.
Council, you heard the committee's motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 7 is approved.
Item number 8, resolution allowing the mayor and city clerk to apply for a 9010 grant from the state aeronautics for ramp drainage repair at the airport.
Council, you heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 8 is approved.
Number 9, consideration payment for February's statement for the Arkansas Valley Alliance, $7,488.77. And I put that as a motion to council.
All right, Council, you heard the committee's motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Item 9 is approved.
Item number 10, resolution on partnering with Arkansas Department of Transportation, Arkansas Tech, and O Street Drainage Project. Mayor, you have anything to say to that?
I think everybody's been in on the discussion. Looks like we are well on our way to working out a solution to the occasional flooding that plagues that intersection at O Street and and Highway 7. Arkansas Tech has indicated that, and this is subject to their board's approval, that they would be willing to donate the easement, that we would agree to cover the any utility relocation that may come out of that. And at this point, it looks like RDOT is going to fund the actual improvements. And so that's what we're going to do. What we need to do next is write to write a letter to RDOT and Arkansas Tech stating that, and push it up the line at RDOT. But it looks like it looks incredibly favorable.
Do we need to do anything tonight?
Just pass this. What we're doing here is your resolution telling me to write that letter and stating that you're willing to partner on that.
Okay, send that to a motion to the council.
Okay, council, you heard the committee's motion. Discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item 10 is approved. You got some work for us from last week.
On the agenda for tonight, there is appropriation for the animal control, and that's to replace a truck that he has there. The value is $22,471.
Okay, committee, or council, you heard the committee's motion.
I'd make that as a motion.
All right. I thought you were. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 1 is approved.
The second appropriation is for the administration police department. It's an expense of insurance, $4,051.71 and $84. I put that in the form of a motion to the council.
Council, you heard the committee's motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 is approved.
Appropriation, Department Administration, expense of city clerk training, she's in Texas County tonight, so that's $157.97. I put that to the council as a motion myself.
Council, you heard the motion. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 3 is approved.
Item 4, IT Department, expense for the network upgrade that we have here. It's $32,918. It's to replace the broadcasting equipment that we've had trouble with, and just in this room. I put that to the form of the council in a motion.
Okay, let me jump in here, Mr. Chairman. We did not get it in your packet, but Mr. McCoy made these copies and handed them out to you. Before we appropriate this amount, this is from that single source provider. We need to address this ordinance waiving our bidding requirements and accept the single source if you're willing to do that. Mr. Smith, do you want to add on to that?
No, you got covered it.
Motion. Do we have any
So-
discussion?
After
We discussed it last week, that this is pretty much the only place that we can get it if we want to keep using the parts of our system that we're going to keep using. I believe, is Mr. Montgomery still here?
Yes.
Okay, he's here if we want to hit him with questions. He promised to be very brief with his answers.
I know you guys have a million reports and a bunch of stuff to do, so I made a very short presentation, if I can figure out the button on this. Okay.
Is that a technology thing?
Thank you, sir.
Should be
Unlock it, dude. Oh.
He's really, really good once he gets the lid open.
Well, once I get it open,
It's kind of illegal.
let's see what I got. There we go. There we go, guys. There's the initiating events. Basically what this is, let me jump back one. We're upgrading from standard definition, which is the older format for television, the 4:3, to the high definition to match Suddenlink's HD broadcasting. Long ago when Freddie and I talked about this, there was no HD, so we bought SD equipment and several of those pieces of equipment. The oldest standard definition camera is that one right up there, and it has given up its ghost after 10 years here, about 9 years, and a little more. Audio issues with the SD to HD conversion. We're having to take the SD format and scale that up for the Suddenlink transceiver, and it's causing us some issues. The camera controller, like I say, it was done, we spec'd this 10 years ago and put it in. It's got a few buttons sticking on it, and we have limited live streaming resolutions because we're in the 4:3 format versus the new format, the 16:9. And so I talked with Lynn, and it looked to be a better spin to, rather than repair the SD and stay with standard definition, was just convert to the high definition. So we looked at the newer technology, which is NDI. It's a total replacement for the old TVI or TVL system. And basically the project components are we design integration between the city IT systems, NDI's infrastructure, the city council chambers here, AV equipment, Suddenlink's HD transceiver, YouTube Live, which is a new feature we're using, Facebook Live, and of course Johnny and the guys on the radio. We create low voltage cabling and AV interconnection design documents, and we purchase proven new tech hardware. The new tech hardware, by the way, the only component there that is kind of the core, the brain of the thing, is working fabulous. It's just that it's in standard definition. The machine is actually, which you won't say about too many pieces of computer hardware to be 10 years and still working like a top. They were a great company, New Tech. They were originally out of Topeka, Kansas, and now they're an American company down in San Antonio, Texas. So the project components would be also purchasing HD PTZ cameras. These cameras are SD cameras, and so they would be replaced with HD PTZ cameras. We would install, configure, test all the low voltage wiring, AV and the broadcast components, provide the as-built drawings, document the operating procedures, which I brought examples of this stuff. We've got some up there. I won't bore you with all that. It's procedures. And provide the component manuals for all of the pieces. We did design documents, and I brought examples of those. If anybody would like to see these. These were the ones back when Freddie and I were working on it. And it was, well, you kind of see what it was. And then, of course, logic diagrams. We're not trying to build any kind of umbilical relationship where you absolutely have to use me to do these services. All the procedures, the technology, and all the design is well documented, so if I was hit by a bus or you just didn't like me, then there would be the ability to have everything that you need to continue using the system. The new hardware looks like this. It's proven. It is great stuff. I've been buying from these guys. I still have an SD. I have 3 of these and in my shop, and 2 of them are from 1985, and they still work like a top. So they're just a great American manufacturer. The cameras are different. They are HD and very, very nice. This is one thing we scrimped a little on the first time we did this. When we bought TVL, these cameras. These cameras are more expensive than the other cameras, but they are stellar cameras in their HD quality. This is, you can't see that, but we have operating procedures, like I say, for the entire operations and maintenance of the system. Basically, what we do is retain what we have. We're not trying to go too crazy here, but get 3 HD replacement cameras, that picture that I showed you. The independently programmable pan, tilt, and zoom controller for each of the 3 HD cameras, so they can be controlled. It's an 8 input, 4 output, live titling and motion graphics that we use for the agenda for the people in the council chambers and those that are watching either on the website or YouTube or television. Connect to multiple smartphones. This is a new feature which I think is really nice in the newer system with NDI. A smartphone can run an app, The tablets that you have can run apps. Those apps can all feed into the new system. So where we've had some small models or something up here where people would bring something, you just couldn't see it from a distance. You can literally take one of your phones, run the app, turn on your camera, point the camera up close, and it can be positioned. Any of your smartphones at the front, laptops if you wanted to use them at the front, wired or wireless. It's got some really nice features. So if you had a point you wanted to make and you had documentation on your laptop and you'd like to show that on the screen, and besides Jerry's machine, all of you guys would have the ability to flip open a laptop or a tablet or even your smartphone and send that to the screens. HD video playback. Some of you may have known the other day we had a gentleman come in that wanted to speak and he brought a video. It was an HD video. Well, our system won't play HD video. He didn't know that. We had told him we can play video because we do, but he brought an HD video, so therefore he was pretty upset when he got up to give his presentation and we couldn't play the video because we have an SD system. So this system is HD video playback without any additional hardware. It's built into the system. We do the HD output. These will be changed to full HD from the SD that we're using a scaler to stretch it up to the size of the HD display right now, but both the front and the rear. The streaming to Facebook Live, to Twitch, to there's several others, YouTube, Facebook, that kind of thing. We do HD archival quality video that we use to be able to have an archival copy of the meeting. Obviously, right now we're doing HD recording that we use for the city website for folks that might not be able to make it to the meeting itself and they want to watch the meeting later. It would be HD quality. One of the biggest things, of course, is HD output to Suddenlink. Since they changed their system to HD after we purchased, we'd be able to go to HD to them directly. The multi-channel audio mixing in that is part of the system, and the output that Johnny and the guys use over there for the radio. And AV output to the overflow seating area, which we have downstairs. We've had some situations where we had a larger number than the fire department would like us to have in this room, so we have an overflow area which supply that video, also HD. That's all I really had to say, unless there's any questions, which I'd be glad to field.
There was one question, why we should waive bidding?
Yes, sir.
On this and go with this sole source provider. Can you tell us?
Well,
in 45 words or less.
45 words or less. I love you guys. I think that the system that we have has really been a good system. We've supported the system the whole time. We have nearly no maintenance. We've had the failures that we have not been the new tech equipment. And that's one thing I did want to change from what we did before, where we bought the less expensive cameras. These cameras are the real deal. And that's really what pushed us up over the original amount. Sorry, that's more than 45 words.
Council.
So, one reason we could sole source this is nobody else in the city can do this. So if we did go to bid, we'd have to go outside the city, get a buy local, and we'd have to have outside service.
Okay.
That was a lot better answer. Thank you, Jerry. I should try.
Motion to suspend the rules and read one time by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
Second. We've got the motion to suspend the reading requirements, read one time by title only from Mr. Westcott, second Ms. Harris. So we're voting on the motion to suspend at this point. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Good. Mr. Smith?
An ordinance waiving competitive bidding for the purchase and installation of new broadcasting equipment in the city council chambers, authorizing the mayor and city clerk treasurer to sign all necessary documents for the said purchase and for the purposes this ordinance, if passed, would waive the competitive bidding requirement as required by state law by passing this ordinance. It is estimated that the cost of the equipment will be $32,918, and by waiving it, be able to go ahead and purchase for that amount.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, got a motion, Mr. Wiley to adopt, second, Mr. Westcott. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I think we need to call the roll on anybody opposed. All right. So that's approved. Now, Mr. Chairman, we're back to your appropriation, and you did that in a motion?
I give that a motion now, sir.
All right. So the motion for $32,918 to complete that purchase. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Item 4 is approved.
Item number 5, request to transfer fund from year-end rollover to the capital fund. Fire truck fund, $100,000. Building maintenance fund, $100,000. And the park special, this is for the summer firework funding, that's $8,500. I put that to the council as a motion. Accept.
Council, you heard the committee's motion on 5. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 5 is approved.
Item number 6.
Sorry. Mr. Chairman, I got a request from Mr. Steve Newby today that we table this till next month.
Is this on the job path?
It is. He asked that they were going to come speak to us. They couldn't. He said for logistic reasons, would we please table it? And so that's okay with you. Do we need a
I make a motion to table it.
All right. All right, so we're going to make a motion on 6 to table. Any discussion on that? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll have that for you in April, council. Does that clean yours up, Mr. Chairman?
That's the end of the financial report.
All right. So from personnel, Chair Freddie Harris, I believe you have a piece for us to consider.
I think so. We met, and the Personnel Committee is ready to present the Director of Recreation and Parks job description to the full council for a vote.
All right. And you're doing that in the form of a motion?
Doing that in the form of a motion,
All right.
yes, sir.
Council, you heard the chair's motion. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Mayor, may I do have a little bit of discussion.
Okay.
There was a little bit of dialogue back and forth underneath the education experience. I still would like to have a little bit more detail as far as the experience being spelled out between both, or the experience, having the years between running a department and a managerial position.
I couldn't hear you down here. Would you say that again? Thank you.
We talk about experience, but it's generic. And so many times we've come back after the fact and thought, and we've second-guessed ourselves. I would almost like to have a little bit more definition, a little bit more clarification as far as the experience of supervising a department and supervising employees.
So are you asking that we not vote on this tonight?
No. I'm saying we can make a slight change or just leave it as is.
Do you have the change designed, written?
Mr. Smith, do you have something off the top of your head that would
I mean,
satisfy
what
that?
exactly are you wanting to accomplish?
To have where it talks about the experience, you got the education and then 5 years of, it says supervisory leadership in a similar setting. It doesn't say anything about supervision of a department or supervision of employees.
So you want the wording to say,
Somewhat leaving it open to Mr. Smith's
fill in the blanks
suggestion.
here for me, please.
Experience in department supervision and employee supervision. 'Cause
But
it's
do you not
nec-
think that
It's not necessarily the same.
Mr. Mayor, with question.
Mr. Sims?
In my experience in job interviews, I mean, that's something that you would address during the interview, and, you know, while it seems generic on the job description, it usually comes out during that interview process, especially when you've got a multi-panel interview team.
Okay. Any other? So, Mr. Tripp, are you doing a motion to amend?
if Mr. Smith has a quick suggestion. I can live with it the way it is, but I would prefer it to be a little bit more detailed. Because 5 years, is that 5 years of college? Or is it 5 years of supervising experience?
Don't you think we need to leave part of this up to the mayor, though? This is his hire.
So we're the one that sets the policy.
I realize that.
I think the 5 years of supervisory, and typically you don't supervise for the college part, and it's, I don't know, it's up to you guys.
I'm okay with it as it is, but I would prefer it to be a little bit more detailed.
I think word it for us, and you might get a second to your motion.
Do what?
If you'll word it for us, I think you might get a second to your motion.
Make a motion to amend it to specifically say supervisory and leadership experience in department and employee management.
Okay,
A
so you want to
similar
strike in a similar setting?
Right, in department and employee setting.
You want to put Parks Department or just in department? Leave it open?
In
on there?
similar department and employee.
Let's leave in a similar, scratch setting. So in a similar department and employee supervision, is that what you're saying?
I put it in a different spot. When you said it, I put it in as, okay, bachelor's degree, BA or BS from 4-year college or university and 5 years of department supervision and employee supervision in a similar setting.
That's perfect.
Is that how you wanted it?
Yes, sir.
So when we do the minutes, that's how we're gonna put it out here? All right.
I'll
so-
second that. Yeah.
All right, so do you need her to repeat that, or you want to say her one more time?
Second. Right here, department supervision and employee supervision.
Me too.
All right. All right, so that we're gonna change it to in department supervision. Say it one more time, Fred.
And employee supervision in a similar setting.
And employee supervision in a similar setting. That's your motion, Mr. Tripp?
Yes, sir.
That's what you're seconding, Mr. Westcott? Any other discussion?
Let's hire somebody.
Sir? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 1 is approved, Madam Chair.
And that's all I have.
All right.
Well, we have another job description that we tabled
Yeah.
because we're going to do more work on it, and that's for Parks and Public Works.
Yeah.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it's not on tonight.
We just voted on the amendment to that job description.
You're correct. I got off track. Okay. So we've approved the amendment. Now we need to vote on the job description as amended, I guess, if we have a motion.
Motion.
Motion, Ms. Harris, second, Mr. Westcott. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Sims. And so you're done for tonight, Madam Chair?
Yes, because the Parks and Public
Okay.
Works, I got to have my PRs and PWs backwards here tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
even when they're written out, I get tripped up on it. That'll bring us to old business 1, the tobacco ordinance. This will be a third reading, if we get a motion.
What do you need?
Motion for the third reading?
Yes, motion to suspend the rules and read by title only with a short explanation.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion, Mr. Westcott, to suspend the rules and read by title only. Well, we've got a second
Got a
from Mr.
second.
Tripp. All in favor of the motion to suspend? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Suspended. Mr. Attorney?
An ordinance amending ordinance number 1847 by defining tobacco, electronic smoking devices and adding to the definition of tobacco products within ordinance number 1847, which prohibits the use of tobacco products in city buildings, offices, parks, recreational facilities, and vehicles within 50 feet of said city buildings, offices, parks, and recreational facilities, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would amend ordinance number 1847, section 4, by adding a new definition to it called electronic smoking device, and then would also amend the existing definition of tobacco product to add that new term, electronic smoking device, into the definition.
What?
You need a motion to adopt?
If we, yeah.
Do we have
So
discussion first?
We need the motion to first. So we got a motion to adopt from Mr. Westcott.
Oh, I'll second, so we can
Second, Ms.
discuss.
Harris.
Mhm.
Now discussion.
Well, discussion is that, you know, this says it applies to city buildings and offices, and under tobacco product, it describes chewing tobacco. As I recall, I think we have some council people and city employees that are guilty of violating this ordinance if passed as is.
We'll have to start enforcing that a little more.
Well, I looked around, and the police chief has left the building, because I looked around for him to,
Mr. Smith, what?
Just
for
wanted
grants,
to-
what
just
is
wanted
the
to point
fine
that
for
out.
violating this? Is there a?
What is the fine?
I think it's up to $500 for this one.
Say what?
I think it's up to $500 for this one.
I'm gonna vote no.
I mean, do we want to amend chewing tobacco? Or the city buildings?
Probably should. What's my schedule look like tomorrow, Julie? Have I got to be at the office all day?
Just wanted to point that out.
Thank you. Any other discussion? All in favor? Should we call the roll? Call the roll.
Let's
I don't
call,
think anybody wants to
let's call
vote
the
on
roll
that.
on this one.
Now, if y'all want to be really cruel, leave it 4-4 and make me break the tie. God, Bob.
That might happen.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Abstain.
Mr. Brown?
Who?
Mr. Brown.
Oh, Brown.
I haven't got there yet.
Okay. Mr. Straight?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Abstain.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Mr. Wiley?
No.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
I would say no.
4-4.
4-4.
Yep.
That's cute. It's the right thing to do. I'm going to do my best to behave. You can put your handcuffs up for tonight. I'm
You're
going to
gonna
cast
vote
my
for
vote
it?
in favor. We were asked to do this, and it's the right thing to do. So, motion passes.
Okay.
Thank you. That'll bring us to
Is there a fine?
Yes.
$500.
Oh, okay.
Now, that's for using, not for carrying, right?
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get it back up. That'll bring us to old business 2. Council, just to catch us up, this should have been on last month's agenda, and somehow we didn't get it on there between planning and here. It's consideration of an ordinance to vacate a 15-foot wide area.
No, remember, since we missed it, we have to go back and set the hearing again.
Is that what we're doing? We're just
Yes.
setting the hearing.
We're
Okay,
setting the hearing
just
for
setting the
April
hearing.
the 19th.
Yes,
All right,
because
then. All right, so all we're doing is setting the hearing, if we could get a motion.
Motion.
Second.
And a second. Motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott. Setting the hearing for April to who?
19th.
April 19th. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Uh,
Motion
wanna-
carries.
The next one we want to table.
Got a motion from Mr. Wiley to table item
Second.
3. We're still working on that. Second was who?
Brown.
Mr. Brown. All in favor of the
Mayor,
motion to table?
Can we have some discussion for a second on
Yes,
this? So what is our plan on this? What are we tabling? Why are we tabling? What's our plan?
There's still a lot of discussion going on about whether the J&B Supply Building would work, and also what the real cost of we have some people relook at the plans for development, give us a second opinion on the cost. I think the item, and I'd have to get Mr. Wiley, you could speak to why you want to table it.
We need some more hard numbers. I don't believe, in my opinion, I don't believe the numbers we got were good enough numbers. I think we need to get some harder numbers so we can get down closer to what it's going to cost and maybe change some of the inside. I think there was an awful lot of walls changed and a lot of stuff added that doesn't have to be there.
It's my understanding that Arkansas Tech needs an answer in movement by May. Is that right, Mr. Straight? Is that what you understand?
Mr. Straight, is that your question?
Is May what you understand is when they need to know something?
Yes.
Okay, so if we're going to work on this and we have potentially 2 months, should we also give it an earnest approach to look at what it would cost to construct a building in correlation, in parallel to looking at this option only? Because selling this property to Tech is one thing that I'm not opposed to, but having a place to go is the obstacle. And what if these numbers end up being right and they're $553,000 or $557,000, and that's not something that we value as in our best interest? Well, then at that point we got to start looking at Plan B. Why don't we run Plan A and Plan B at the same time?
I'm game for anything that's a reasonable alternative, because this is somewhat of a delicate situation. We need to show Arkansas Tech that we have good meaning. We need to make sure the public understands we're all for the El Paso development. So we need to be precise about our decision here. So the more facts we have, I'm all for it.
But I believe you'd be looking at probably $2 million to build a new building that size.
It may be, but let's get real numbers, not I believe or I think.
We can do that.
Let's run option A and option B parallel at the same time.
We could be doing that
Right. That's
in the
my
next
point.
30 days.
Well, we've got 60 days. You know, they need to know by May.
We can't table it till then, so.
Right.
So let's table this for 30 days.
For 30 days.
Any other discussion? All in
Who's
favor?
going to take that? Who's going to
Mayor
chair? Who's going to run with that? Was that
Mayor is.
something you'll take care of, Mayor?
I will be happy to work with everybody on that. Any other discussion? We're voting to table item 3. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4, consideration of a change for fees on Oakland Cemetery. Did we ever get the info back from the state we were looking for? Are we ready to go?
Have not yet.
We have not. And
So
for
you
that
want
reason,
to-
I'd like to table this again.
All right. We have a motion to table item 4 because we're waiting on information from the state. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion, Mr. Westcott, second, Mr. Wiley. To table item 4, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mayor?
Yes,
May
sir.
I? Let's go back to 3 for just a minute. Let's put Mr. Bill with you on that, because he's in the buildings and stuff, commercial buildings. Let's let him help you on that.
That'd be fine with me if,
That'd be all right with the council? Because he's got some expertise on that.
and some inside knowledge with tech. So if there's no objection, that's how we'll keep us all on track on that. New business 1. This is to request to approve the nomination of Planning Commissioner Hubbard to serve on the BOA. Planning Commission did this at their meeting last month.
Motion.
Second.
So we got motion was Mr. Wiley, second was Mr. Tripp. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So item 1 is approved. Item 2, consideration ordinance to rezone property. Wait a minute.
2 is 2 on the other one, which we just.
2 is the one, I'm sorry, Ms. Harris.
New business here, new business 2 is the same as new business 2, but we need to have a hearing first, right?
This one actually
Is it
is the
different?
Community Christian School. They called day before yesterday
Oh,
and asked us to table that.
Yeah,
They're working on a better plan. I
the guy
think,
told
so-
me to table
Okay,
this
so
if I
your
didn't hear
motion-
from him.
You'll make the
Make
motion to
motion
table?
to table it.
Okay.
Second.
And a second, Mr.
I knew that
Westcott.
was a table. Okay.
Yeah, he said if he didn't call me for me to table that.
All right. Motion, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott, to table item 2. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item 2 is tabled.
They're looking at some more land.
3, ordinance to rezone property that's currently C2 to R2 and R2 to a PUD. This is the blue chip ice deal.
Motion to suspend rules, read by title only, short with explanation.
Second.
Okay, motion to suspend for your,
First time, and
One
one
time.
time only.
all right, and that's your second. Second was Mr.
They need to
Westcott.
move on with this.
Okay, all in favor of suspending the rules for all 3 readings? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, Mr. Smith.
An ordinance rezoning certain real in the city of Russellville, Arkansas, and for other purposes. This ordinance, if passed, would rezone property at 1509 South Arkansas Avenue in the city of Russellville. That is further shown Exhibit A and described in Exhibit B from dual zoning of C2 and R2 to PUD.
Motion to adopt.
Second.
All right, motion to adopt, Mr. Wiley, second, Mr. Westcott. Mr. Walden, since you made the trip, do you want to tell us why we're doing this as a PUD? There was a good reason.
Perfect case of a PUD. In this instance, Blue Chip Ice was a legally established business under C2 zoning. Since the time that the business was established, the city changed the zoning code such that ice manufacturing in a C2 zone was no longer a permitted use. So they were left with some really poor options moving forward, one being attempting to zone that property to M1, which is directly adjacent to a neighborhood. Both the staff and planning commission did not think that that would be a very favorable thing in the long term because of what it might enable to be developed on that site. So the solution that we all came up with was the idea of moving this to a PUD that would allow them to do all of the C2 uses and also allow them to do the ice manufacturing. And so it's kind of a win for everyone in the situation, win to protect the neighbors, win to protect Blue Chip Ice, and also in a lot of ways a win for the city because of business is allowed to expand. So.
Any questions? All right, we got a motion to adopt and a second. You want to call the roll on them? You read this, didn't you?
I did.
Mr. Wiley?
Yes.
Mr. Westcott?
Yes.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ms. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Straight?
Yes.
Mr. Sims?
Mr. Sims
He
stepped out.
stepped out for a
Okay.
minute.
Mr. Tripp?
Yes.
Ms. Caruth?
Yes.
Passed.
Passes.
Passes.
All right. That's good enough. Item 3 is approved. Item 4, consideration of a resolution to approve a variance from constructing half-street improvements. This is for the Damas. I've been saying that wrong for 3 months. Damas Apartment Complex Development.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion was Mr. Westcott, second was Mr. Tripp. Any discussion?
Did you get any update on when their plan started?
You know, they were here this morning to go, they came in after technical review for their own meeting to go over details, what they need to be doing, get questions answered. You might say they've started. But construction-wise, I think he told us, Ms. Harris, do you remember? He talked about it planning.
I'm thinking June.
I think you're right. I think actual turning dirt,
Is that right?
June or
James,
earlier.
when are they gonna
James,
start?
do you remember? At the last planning commission meeting after it was over, they were talking about when they were gonna start.
Yeah, I think that's accurate. They're kind of at the phase that they've got the site plan prepared. We'll be moving that through planning commission this month. We had, a few comments, not anything that was really substantial. And then we'll get the construction plans approved for all of the engineering related to utilities and drainage and all of that. So that timeline would be consistent with what's achievable through the process.
Good.
It's like the sooner the better. They're ready.
What's the timeline for completion?
Summer of
Probably
next
16
year, I
months.
believe.
Probably about 16 months. That's a big project.
In talking this morning at Tech Review, the timeline for the completion of H Street and the completion of this development will be within a couple months, and so we're hoping that those things get relatively well aligned, that maybe we can get the H Street engineering fast-tracked in terms of working on that, because it would be very, very advantageous. One of the aspects of that development is that in the interim, they would have an entrance on Parkway that is not very advantageous for the development or for the city. And so if we could, at the time that they're seeking their certificate of occupancy, if they're doing that paving, that we could have H Street done at that time, it would be very advantageous, because then they would just be allowed to have an entrance onto H Street itself instead of Parkway, which would be good for everybody.
But figuring summer of next year for both of them, and that's it?
Yes, yeah, 2019, sorry,
Good.
long answer.
Beautiful. Maybe we could bet with them. I bet we can be through before they are.
I'm not getting to that.
Did you have another motion you wanted to make? Something about getting out of here?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, we have a motion to adjourn for Mr. Westcott, so let's adjourn.